All right. Okay. So, welcome to day 80 something or other. What is it? 83 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge. And, pardon me, burp. Again, burp. 3 times, burp. 4 times? No, 4 times. Okay, so reading the last of the Harry Potter books, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. Last book of the day, last book of the series, so that would be the end of the Harry Potter week this week. Yes. My apologies, but I actually read this out before, but the recording didn't save, so I'm recording again, so my enthusiasm is slightly less than up than it used to be, which is great. So, this is my second time through recording this, so I may make this shorter than usual, because it's just... recording again. I finished this already. Alright, let's just read the blurb on the back. So everyone will know what the book is about, even though you should know what the book is about already. Harry Potter is preparing to leave the Dursleys and Privet Drive for the last time. But the future that awaits him is full of danger, not only for him, but for anyone close to him. And Harry has already lost so much. Only by destroying Voldemort's remaining Horcruxes can Harry free himself and overcome the Dark Lord's forces of evil. In this dramatic conclusion to the Harry Potter series, Harry must leave his most loyal friends behind, and in a final perilous journey, find the strength and the will to face his terrifying destiny. A deadly confrontation that is his alone to fight. Yes, so that's the blurb. I have to say, this book is actually much lighter than the previous books, even though it's still over 500 pages long, so... whatever paper they use, it's awfully light. Much lighter. That's pleasing. That's pleasing to me. Okay. Right, so got to the start of a page. Let's just keep flipping through until we find the start of a chapter. Flipping through, flippy. Okay, chapter 13. The Muggle-Born Registration Commission on page 203. Okay, so here we go. Mafalda, said Umbridge, looking at Hermione. Travers sent you, did he? Yes, squeaked Hermione. God, you'll do well. Umbridge spoke to the wizard in black and gold. That's that problem solved, Minister. If Mafalda can be spared for record keeping, we shall be able to start straight away. She consulted a clipboard. 10 people today, and one of them the wife of a ministry employee. Tut! Even here in the heart of the ministry? She stepped into the lift beside Hermione, as did the 2 wizards who had been listening to Umbridge's conversation with the minister. We'll go straight down, Mafalda. You'll find everything you need in the courtroom. Good morning, Albert. Aren't you getting out? Yes, of course, said Harry in Runcorn's deep voice. Harry stepped out of the lift. The golden grills clanged shut behind him. Glancing over his shoulder, Harry saw Hermione's anxious face sinking back out of sight, a tall wizard on either side of her. Umbridge's velvet hairbow level with her shoulder. What brings you up here, Runcorn? asked the new Minister of Magic. His long black hair and beard was streaked with silver, and a great overhanging forehead shadowed his glinting eyes, putting Harry in mind of a crab looking out from beneath a rock. Needed a quick word with... Harry hesitated for a fraction of a second. Arthur Weasley. Someone said he was up on level 1? Ah, said Pius Thicknees. Pius Thicknees? Oh, that's a silly thing. Said Pius Thicknees. Has he been caught having contact with an undesirable? No, said Harry, his throat dry. No, nothing like that. Ah, well, it's only a matter of time, said Thicknees. If you ask me, the blood traitors are as bad as the mudbloods. Good day, Runcorn. Good day, Minister. Harry watched Thicknees march away along the thickly carpeted corridor. The moment the minister had passed out of sight, Harry tugged the invisibility cloak out from under his heavy black cloak, threw it over himself, and set off along the corridor in the opposite direction. Runcorn was so tall that Harry was forced to stoop to make sure his big feet were hidden. Panic pulsed in the pit of his stomach as he passed gleaming wooden door after gleaming wooden door, each bearing a small plaque of the owner's name and the occupation upon it. The might of the ministry, its complexity, its impenetrability. Oh, dear Lord. Its impenetrability. That sounds right. That's what it says. Its impenetrability seemed to force themselves upon him, so that the plan he had been carefully concocting with Ron and Hermione over the past 4 weeks seemed laughably childish. They had concentrated all their efforts on getting inside without being detected. They had not given a moment's thought to what they would do if they were forced to separate. Now Hermione was stuck in court proceedings, which would undoubtedly last hours. Ron was struggling to do magic that Harry was sure was beyond him. Okay. Ron was struggling to do magic that Harry was sure was beyond him, a woman's liberty possibly depending on the outcome. And he, Harry, was wandering round on the top floor when he knew perfectly well that his quarry had gone down in the lift. He stopped walking, leaned against a wall, and tried to decide what to do. The silence pressed upon him. There was no bustling or talk or swift footsteps here. The purple carpeted corridors were as hushed as though the muffliato. The silence pressed upon him. There was no bustling or talk or swift footsteps here. The purple carpeted corridors were as hushed as though the muffliato. The purple carpeted corridors were as hushed as though the muffliato. Damn it! The purple carpeted. I hate that. The purple carpeted corridors were as hushed as though the muffliato charm had been cast over the place. Her office must be up here, Harry thought. It seemed most unlikely that Umbridge would keep her jewelry in her office, but on the other hand, it seemed foolish not to try to search it to make sure. He therefore set off along the corridor again, passing nobody but a frowning wizard who was murmuring instructions to a quill that floated in front of him, scribbling on a trail of parchment. Now paying attention to the names on the doors, Harry turned a corner. Halfway along the next corridor, he emerged into a wide open space where a dozen witches and wizards sat in rows in small desks, not unlike school desks, though much more highly polished and free from graffiti. Harry paused to watch them, for the effect was quite mesmerizing. They were all waving and twiddling their wands in unison, and squares of colored paper were flying in every direction like little pink kites. Squares. I guess they didn't say multicolored paper, but it's squares of pink paper. Then there'll be pink kites. Why would you say colored paper and not expect, I don't know. Never mind. They were all waving and twiddling their wands in unison. And squares of colored paper were flying in every direction like little pink kites. After a few seconds, Harry realized that there was a rhythm to the proceedings, that the papers all formed the same pattern, and after a few more seconds, he realized that what he was watching was the creation of pamphlets, that the paper squares were pages, which when assembled, folded, and magicked into place, fell into neat stacks beside each which... God damn it, once again. Huge, long sentence that I get lost in. After a few seconds, Harry realized that there was a rhythm to the proceedings, that the papers all formed the same pattern, and after a few more seconds, he realized that what he was watching was the creation of pamphlets, that the paper squares were pages, which when assembled, folded, and magicked into place, fell into neat stacks beside each witch or wizard. Harry crept closer. Although the workers were so intent on what they were doing that he doubted they would notice a carpet-muffled footstep. Really? I don't know how J.K. Rowling does it, but she seems to be finding the most awkward phrases to just... Or maybe I'm just terrible. I don't know. Blaming the tools. That's my problem. Harry crept closer. Although the workers were so intent on what they were doing that he doubted they would notice a carpet-muffled footstep, and he slid a completed pamphlet from the pile beside a young witch. Dear God. Slid a completed pamphlet from the pile. He examined it beneath the invisibility cloak. Its pink cover was emblazoned with a golden title, Mudbloods, and the dangers they pose to a peaceful, pure-blood society. Beneath the title was a picture of a red rose, with a simpering face in the middle of its petals being strangled by a green weed with fangs and a scowl. There was no author's name upon the pamphlet, but again, the scars on the back of his right hand seemed to tingle as he examined it. Then, the young witch beside him confirmed his suspicions as she said, still waving and twirling her wand. Then the young witch beside him confirmed his suspicions as she said, still waving and twirling her wand, Will the old hag be interrogating mudbloods all day? Does anyone know? Careful, said the wizard beside her, glancing around nervously. One of his pages slipped and fell to the floor. What? Has she got magic ears as well as an eye now? The witch glanced towards the shining mahogany door, facing the space full of pamphlet makers. Harry looked too, and rage reared in him like a snake. Where there might have been a peephole in a muggle front door, a large round eye with a bright blue iris had been set into the wood, an eye that was shockingly familiar to anyone who had known Alistair Moody. For a second, Harry forgot where he was and what he was doing there. He even forgot that he was invisible. He strode straight over to the door to examine the eye. It was not moving. It gazed blindly upwards, frozen. The plaque beneath it read, Dolores Umbridge, Senior Undersecretary to the Minister. Below that, a slightly shinier new plaque read, Head of the Muggle-born Registration Commission. Harry looked back at the dozens of pamphlet makers. Though they were intent upon their work, he could hardly suppose that they would not notice if the door of an empty office opened in front of them. He therefore withdrew from an inner pocket an odd object with little waving legs and a rubber-bulbed horn for a body. Crouching down beneath the cloak, he placed the decoy detonator on the ground. It scuttled away at once through the legs of the witches and wizards in front of him. A few moments later, during which Harry waited with his hand upon the doorknob, there came a loud bang, and a great deal of acrid black smoke billowed from a corner. The young witch in the front row shrieked. Pink pages flew everywhere as she and her fellows jumped up, looking around for the source of the commotion. Harry turned the doorknob, stepped into Umbridge's office, and closed the door behind him. He felt he had stepped back in time. The room was exactly like Umbridge's office at Hogwarts. Lace draperies, doilies, and dried flowers covered every available surface. The walls bore the same ornamental plates, each featuring a highly colored, beribboned The walls bore the same ornamental plates, each featuring a highly colored, beribboned kitten, gambolling and frisking with sickening cuteness. The desk was covered with a flouncy, flowered cloth. Behind Mad Eye's eye, a telescopic attachment enabled Umbridge to spy. Behind Mad Eye's eye, a telescopic attachment enabled Umbridge to spy on the workers on the other side of the door. Harry took a look through it, and saw they were all still gathered around the decoy detonator. He wrenched the telescope out of the door, leaving a hole behind, pulled the magical eyeball out of it, and placed it in his pocket. Then he turned to face the room again, raised his wand, and murmured, Accio Locet. Nothing happened, but he had not expected it to do. Nothing happened, but he had not expected it. No doubt Umbridge knew all about protective charms and spells. He therefore hurried behind her desk and began pulling open the drawers. He saw quills and notebooks and spellotape, enchanted paperclips, and enchanted paperclips that coiled snake-like from their drawer and had to be beaten back. A fussy little lace box full of spare hair bows and clips, but no sign of a locket. There was a filing cabinet behind the desk. Harry set to searching it. Like Filch's filing cabinets at Hogwarts, it was full of folders, each labeled with a name. It was not until Harry reached the bottommost drawer that he saw something to distract him from his church. It was not until Harry reached the bottommost drawer that he saw something to distract him from his church. Church? It was not until Harry reached the bottommost drawer that he saw something to distract him from his search. Mr. Weasley's file. He pulled it out and opened it. Arthur Weasley. Blood status? Pure blood, but with unacceptable pro-Muggle leanings. Family. Known member of the Order of the Phoenix. Family. Wife, pure blood. 7 children, 2 youngest at Hogwarts. Note, youngest son currently at home, seriously ill. Ministry inspectors have confirmed. Security status, tracked. All movements are being monitored. Strong likelihood of undesirable number 1 will contact. Has stayed with Weasley family previously. Undesirable number 1. Harry muttered under this. Ooh, there's the 4th burp. Undesirable number 1. Harry muttered under his breath as he replaced Mr. Weasley's folder and shut the drawer. Now let's say that entire sentence in one go, and hopefully I won't have this rasp anymore. Undesirable number 1, Harry muttered under his breath, as he replaced Mr. Weasley's folder and shut the drawer. He had an idea he knew who that was, and sure enough, as he straightened up and glanced around the office for fresh hiding places, he saw a poster of himself on the wall with the words Undesirable number 1 emblazoned across his chest. A little pink note was stuck to it, with a picture of a kitten in the corner. Harry moved across to read it, and saw that Umbridge had written, "To be punished." And that seems like a good place to stop. Not least because I've had to do this twice now. Okay, so that was day 83 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge, and that was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. This week has been a terrible week. I don't know. There's just things in there that I'm not obviously reading well, and I may have to go and practice by myself some more. And there's a rhythm to the words that are quite musical, at least when they're on the page, but as soon as you try to read it out loud, it's like, what the hell? Why are all these P words suddenly in a row? That's crazy. And the F and TH words, both forever, something like that, all together like that. Anyway, that was day 83, last day of the Harry Potter, last book of the Harry Potter week. Tomorrow, we'll be into another new mystery book challenge. Sorry, had a brain fart. Mystery book challenge number 12. And it will be the start of a new week, and therefore, it'll be a new themed week again. So, come back tomorrow. I'll be doing my mystery book challenge tomorrow, and come and try and guess what book or thing I've decided to read. Oh, there's a clue. It's not necessarily a book. Haha! Alright, see you guys then. Hey, you seem like a cool, wonderful, and or awesome individual with impeccable taste in voice actors. So why not follow me on Facebook or Twitter? You can keep up with the latest projects I'm in, or that my friends are in, or that you could be in, because I occasionally post links to open editions to various projects that require voice acting out there, or that nobody's in, but they're interesting projects nonetheless that you may also find interesting. Also, lots of random thoughts about whatever's on my mind at that particular moment. Usually it's about food or video games, or foodie video games. Anyway, you can follow me on Facebook at OmadonVA or Twitter at Omadon. Hope to see you there.